Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. So sometimes things don't work out quite like we anticipated, and that's the case with this video that you're about to see here. Started out a little over a week ago out at the museum on a Saturday. Thought I was going to have a real easy job. I had some shafts that needed to be pressed out of some pulleys. Turned out it was not as easy as I thought. So what was originally just going to be mixed into one of my odds and ends video has basically become a standalone video on its own, as you will get to see me work through the challenges of trying to get a really stuck shaft out of a pulley. So stay tuned and watch. So here's the first pulley we're going to tackle, and this one shouldn't be too bad, I'm hoping. Kind of rusty in there, but I think that'll press out pretty easily. We'll start by trying to loosen these up. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on these because I don't want to break them off. I haven't put any penetrating oil or anything on these yet, and they're pretty tight. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight to some heat and put a little heat on them and see if we can back them out. I'm going to try that. It's probably going to take a little bit more than that, but see what happens here. Actually, that's coming right out. It doesn't take a lot of heat to do this, guys. You're just trying to heat it up enough to just make it move, and it doesn't have to move much, and a lot of times that will break that seal between the two pieces. And notice I was heating up the part around the bolt and not the bolt itself. If you heat the bolt itself up, what you're going to do is expand the bolt inside the cast iron, and what I wanted to do is expand the cast iron away from the bolt. So by heating it up, and I'm in theory make this hole just a thousandth or two larger, and that is often enough to break these things loose. And you know, we're not trying to heat them up red hot. You know, sometimes you may have to do that, but most of the time, just a little bit of heat, a couple of 100 degrees is all that it needs to get these bolts broke loose. Alright, so we flip this over to get to the other side, and I'm going to see if just that little bit of heat I put on that side is enough to get this one broke loose too. And it's not, so we'll heat this side and do the same thing. That's all it took. So we're going to try pressing this pulley off now. I've got it all set up over here. I put a little bit of penetrating oil in there to hopefully let it come out. It looks like I can see a little gap around the top, so I don't think this is super tight in here. I'm hoping. We'll put a little pressure on it. If it looks like it's going to be stubborn, I'll put some heat on there, and that should let it come right on out. So, but let's see how it goes. So I've had a lot of people comment about my jack up here and saying I need to upgrade and get a air-powered one. And you can get one of these jacks that basically is just like this, but it runs off of either air power or hand power. And you're right, that's what I need, but yeah, that's coming right on out. But I ain't got the money to buy one right now, so we're gonna make do with what we got. Alright, that was easy. So we need to get this pulley separated off of here and something a little bit more manageable. So I'm going to cut the shaft and get it where we can press that one out too, hopefully. I'm going to saw it though, instead of, you know, I could use a cutting torch and just zip through this, but that will leave a real rough edge around that shaft, which will make it difficult to press out. I'd have to grind it all out. So instead, I'm just going to use a Sawzall. Will come in here and just hopefully cut this right off. All right, so we got these double wheels here that need to be separated, and unfortunately I can't really get my saw down in there to do it, so I'm just going to reach in here with a cutting torch and split the shaft between the two, and then hopefully we can get these on the press and press them apart. All right, got them separated. We'll have to take the grinder and grind those out and smooth them up so we can press them out. Well, I got all my pulleys cut apart, separated. One of them we got the shaft out. Two of them here, or three of them here, the shaft is still in there, and I tried pressing all these without putting too terribly much pressure on them, and they were all pretty stuck. So what I've decided to do is I've got these, I've been letting them soak most of the afternoon here in with some penetrating oil, and what I'm using is just a mixture of acetone and automatic transmission fluid, which several people have recommended as a good penetrating oil. I've got some Croil. Unfortunately, I left it at home. It's not here at the museum where I'm at today. It's at my home shop. So anyway, I mixed some of that up. I'm going to give it a try. We'll see how it works, and let that soak overnight. And tomorrow we'll come out here and put it back on the press, and maybe put a little more heat on them if needed, and see if we can get them apart. All right, guys, we're going to try this again. This pulley, same one that I got three of these that I was working on yesterday and just couldn't get them. So we let this soak overnight in some penetrating oil, acetone, and transmission fluid. We'll see if this helps. Hopefully, with luck. I know it looks like I'm putting a lot of pressure on these, but I really hadn't cranked down on them yet. I'm just kind of easing into it. It hadn't moved yet. I think I'll be coming out of there. All right, we're going to put some heat on it. Yeah, I think it's moving. Yeah, it's going. update on getting the pulleys for the matcher ready. So there was one pulley on there. It was 8 inches in diameter and I think about 7 inches wide. This one's just a little bit wider, but no big deal. But it was broken. I was able to find another pulley. Like I said, it's just a little bit wider, but the diameter's right, so we're going to be able to make this work with no problem. Found this out in our stash of pulleys here at the museum. Problem is, not really a problem, but the bore in here was 1.11 and we need it to be 1.15. So it had been previously sleeved with a cast iron bushing, it looks like, and I was not able to get that to press out. That may be original from the factory. I'm really just don't know. The shaft came right out, but that bushing was didn't seem like it wanted to press out, so I'm not even going to try. We've got this set up in the lathe. This is a fairly small pulley, so I got it running true in the 4-jaw chuck using an indicator. We indicated on a couple different places on the face here to make sure that it was running true, and you know, it's within 1/1000th of an inch right now, which is more than adequate for what we're going to be using it for. So right now we just need to punch this out, bore it out just a little bit oversized. And do that, we'll just use a boring bar and on the lathe here. So I will let y'all watch that. Get one more measurement on this, see where we're at. Yeah, that's going to go on there real nice. I got about 1/1000th and a half over, so that should slide right up on that pulley with no problem, or on that shaft. Well, we're back out here working on pulleys again today, and I'm down to having one last pulley here to get this shaft pressed out, and for whatever reason this one here is just really being stubborn. Everything else has come apart, and I have really put a lot of pressure on this in the hydraulic press. I've heated this thing up really hot a couple of times now with the torch, trying to press it out, and it just will not move. And I'm afraid to put too much pressure on this for fear that I might bust the pulley, and that's not something I want to do. So I think what the game plan is going to be is we're going to drill out the center of the shaft to try to relieve some of that pressure on the inside, and maybe allowing it to compress a little bit and press out a little bit easier. You know, ideally I would put this on the lathe and just bore down the lathe. Unfortunately, you know, my lathe isn't quite big enough to handle this. This is about a 20-inch pulley, and I've got a 16-inch lathe. Actually, you know, over the ways, I can chuck something right up to this size. If this pulley was probably a 1/16th of an inch smaller in diameter, I could spin it on that lathe, but as it is just barely too big to be able to do that. So I've decided that what we're going to do is we're going to mount this up over here on the milling machine and just drill this thing out. So what I've got is I got a vise mounted down here. The shaft actually is sticking out of the backside of the pulley down here, so I got a little bit of a length on the bottom. That's what I'm chucking to. So I've got an angle block, a 45-degree angle block down in the vise itself, and we got all this clamped together, so that's running straight up and down. It's square, and what I'm going to do is use my coaxial indicator to find the center of this, roughly find the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not really trying to bore this out. I just want to drill out a bunch of it and leave a little bit of metal around there for this to on the shaft itself. So we're going to do that. Right now though, I need to move the whole turret out just a little bit because of the depth of this. It needs to come out a little bit more, so we're going to loosen up some bolts over there, slide that out, and we'll use the coaxial indicator to find the center. That'll be far enough. Alright guys, so we got the coaxial indicator on here, and if you've never seen one of these, you know, it just kind of spins around on there. I've got a probe going around the diameter of the shaft, and I have, when I was, this side was well, or cut with a torch, and I actually went around it and kind of ground around this. It's not a really super precision centering job I'm doing. I'm just trying to get it close to the center, guys. So, you know, we're not going to get this thing perfect because that's not a perfectly round surface I'm indicating on. But with this coaxial indicator, you just kind of grab it and you can see the range there. And, you know, it's measuring in thousandths of an inch, but you really can't use that on the coaxial to actually move in thousandths, because it depends on the sweep out here and how big of an arm you've got as to how far you're actually moving. So the movement on there is more relative than absolute. But we're gonna just basically start working toward, I'm moving the table in a little bit, and as you can see, my range is getting down, and now it's starting to go back up. So I'm, you know, that's about the best range I got in that direction. So now I'm just going to move in the other direction here. I'm not sure which way I need to go, so that's going the wrong way. It's getting bigger. All right, that is pretty close to center. So, and again, you know, this is not a perfectly round surface that I'm indicating on that's been ground. So, but that right there is going to be pretty darn close to center. You know, this was a machine surface. You can really dial this thing right in to where you want to go pretty quickly using this coaxial indicator. Anyway, if you've never seen one used, that's how it works. And we've got that centered up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my digital readout on. I'm going to actually zero that out on 0, and I'm going to put a milling cutter in here and actually mill the top of this flat, get rid of this flame cut edge, because that's just rough, and then we'll come in there and we'll go back to 0 and drill that out. So I've got the mill in here now. We're just, like I said, just get this flat on the top. I'm not really worried about what this looks like, because it's all going to be being pressed out later. But I've already touched off there, so we'll raise the table up. We'll try to do let's do about a 50 thousandths cut and see what that sound feels like. And notice here that, you know, I've got my jaws and my vise are running this way, and I'm going to basically move the cutter in the same direction that my are perpendicular, I guess, to the jaws in my vise, and that's just so that I don't move this thing side to side in the vise. I don't want to mill parallel to it. We're going to go like this. Take another 50. Alright guys, so we'll drop this pin down inside that bore now, and it's bored out probably at least 3/4 of the way down through the hub here, and by pressing this from the bottom of that bore theoretically what should happen is it should allow this top part to kind of collapse in on itself ever so slightly, and hopefully give us enough wiggle room to let this thing press out. So keep your fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. That thing is really stuck, man. I've got a good 30 tons of pressure on this thing, guys. It's still not giving. I guess I can put some heat on it and see if it'll pop out this time. There's no reason why that shouldn't be moving. Alright, we're going to let it cool down. I guess I'm going to have to put it back in there and put the boring head in there and take some more metal out of that thing. I may have to drill it down a little bit deeper too. We'll have to figure this out. Well guys, we're back at this one more time. I'm going to tell you, this pulley has really been stubborn. I've actually been working on this thing now off and on, not constantly, but now for a little over a week, trying to get this last shaft out of this last pulley, and it just doesn't want to come. So before we had basically drilled it out 1 3/8, about halfway down, because that was as deep as my drill bit would go. I have since now gone back and gotten a deeper drill bit, basically drilled it down. This whole section here is about 4 inches thick, and I've basically drilled it down about 4 inches. I may be just a little shy of that because of, again, of the capability of what I had. And then I came in here with a boring head on the milling machine, and we bored this out. So now basically what we have is a piece of thin wall tubing that's going through this rather than a piece of shaft, except for maybe the bottom 1/4 inch or so in there. So hopefully this time we're going to be able to press this thing out. So I've got a piece of steel stuck down in here. That's probably 1 1/4 inch shaft. It's down pressing in the bottom of the hole, and the idea is that you know, as this thing is pressing, that by pressing on the bottom, hopefully the top will just kind of collapse in a little bit. You know, we made the wall thickness now, I haven't measured it. I'm guessing that's between a 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch, somewhere in that ballpark. So hopefully there'll be enough flex in that now that this thing will finally come out. If this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. And let me just mention this too, guys. This has always been how whenever I hit a dead, you know, hit a wall on something where what I'm doing is not working, I try to just put it aside, go home, sleep on it, and think about it, rather than trying to get in a big hurry. When you get in a big hurry and you get frustrated because things aren't moving the way you want to, that's when you can really screw things up sometimes. At least that's been my experience. And trust me, I have gotten mad and screwed up my fair share of things in the past. So that's part of the reason why I've really taken my time on this and go home, think about it, come up with another plan, and then attack it again. You know, later that day or the next day or the next time you're in the shop. So anyway, enough talk. Let's see if this works. All right, we're getting some pressure on this, and one of the tips, or one of the suggestions, I guess, that came in over the channel here in the last couple of weeks is when you're pressing, it's a good idea to wrap it up in a blanket or a piece of canvas or something in case this thing shatters, fractures. This will absorb a lot of the energy of those pieces coming out and you don't get hit with shrapnel, which is a good idea. And quite honestly, it's something that I hadn't really ever thought about wrapping it up like this. I've always been concerned about this, and I've seen pieces, you know, pop or whatever when you're pressing them. And back years ago, I worked in an auto parts store, and on Saturdays, a lot of times people bring in axles to have the bearings pressed off, and I've seen more than one bearing fall into a million pieces and go flying across the shop. So anyway, we're going to do that, just a little safety here, and give this a try. Hopefully we won't need this, because I really don't want this pulley to shatter. So let's put a little more pressure on it and see what will happen here. I can't believe this thing isn't coming out. Maybe it'll go now. Wow. Getting easier now. Well, finally success, guys. We got it apart. The pulley's all intact. Nothing broke or shattered, which is always a good news. And you know, now that we got this out, we can do the post-mortem on here and figure out what was giving us the problem. And it's pretty obvious. Let me zoom you in here, and we'll show you what was going on. All right, so here's the shaft. You can see where we bored it out. Got this thin wall tubing all the way down. And if you look on here, you can see there was a set screw here. There's a mark here in the middle where a set screw turned at one time all the way around. And this one here, looks like they may have drilled it to seat it, which is the proper way of doing it. But this one here, look, it spun when it was really tight, and it really gouged the shaft up. And it's all shiny right along the surface where it actually made it larger in diameter. And what was giving us the problem was, I think, mostly right here, probably also in here a little bit, where that key seat had scored the shaft, and it was just really, really tight in there. And it just took a lot of pressure. Once we got it broke loose, it was good to go. I don't know that I'd have got it off if I hadn't bored this thing out like that. Like I said, we had put that much pressure on it that finally broke it loose several times before, even heating up the pulley, and nothing. So you can see on here, right here and right here, this is where I took a grinder and kind of ground around the flange on each side of the pulley. At one point in time, I wasn't sure, someone may have welded this thing to the shaft, and I did a little grinding and realized, no, that wasn't the case. But that's the reason that's a little bit smaller there. But that was basically the how deep this that pulley is on here. So anyway, we've got it. So I think we're going to call this a wrap, guys, on this video. And we see here in the 5 pulleys that we got shafts pressed out of. Everything is all ready now. Well, I say ready, they're all ready to go on the shaft, but next thing is we got to get all these cleaned up. I'll probably sandblast them, paint them, and then these will be ready to go onto the shaft, and we need to pour the bearings over there. Hopefully get that done soon as well. But sometimes it's the littlest jobs that turn into the biggest jobs, and that's what proved to be the case on this. But perseverance paid off. You know, these pulleys, they won a couple of the battles, but at the end of the day, I won the war. So we got these ready to go. Thank you guys for watching.